Hello again. It's the magnificently talented and humble Dr. Dennis Johnson here today with more of my award-winning bits of simple medical advice. Now, today's letter reads, Dear Dr. Dennis Johnson, I am writing to you because you seem to be a smart man. Actually, I am a smart man. I've got a young son. Yeah, well, we've all had that. And recently, he started expressing an interest in finding out where babies come from. When should I tell him? Signed, Toby. I hate that name. I understand your concern, Mr. Toby. Like most parents, you're worried that if you never tell him where babies come from, he may never be able to have a child of his own someday. Now, my general rule, but not my rule of thumb, is this. Tell your children where they come from as soon as you think you know, and keep on telling them until they believe you. Of course, as an option, you don't have to tell him. No one can force you to tell him. You're not legally obliged to tell him. Well, you are, but the police tend to turn a blind eye to it these days if you don't. In fact, I still haven't told my own son, Jacinta, and that's because I want him to experiment with everything, and that way he'll work it out for himself. Now, it also depends, of course, on how old your son is. Perhaps he's too young to understand. Or perhaps he's over 18 with kids of his own, in which case you should sit him and his kids on your knees and tell them everything. Or maybe you'd like to show him one of those awful childbirth films. They work quite well, and they've turned many of my friends off the idea of kids completely. Now, as for what to tell him, there's always that old story about the stork and the baby. I never really got that one, mind you. I wasn't really old enough to understand it. I was 21. That's why I've written a book on the subject, which is entitled Dr. Dennis Johnson Asks, Why Do I Come From There? It's available in all the children's sections of the ABC shops and has no illustrations of any kind, which is a shame because I spent ages on them. So good luck, Toby. God, I hate that name. This has been Dr. Dennis Johnson reminding you once again, don't believe the nonsense unless you hear it from me directly.